Hi, welcome. Enjoy the content, subscribe, and turn on notifications.
Ryan Castellano always thought he knew his life inside and out. At 38, he'd built a solid career as an operations manager at a medical equipment distributor in Austin, Texas. The job wasn't glamorous, but it paid well and offered stability. Heather, his wife of 35, worked as a digital marketing consultant, mostly from home with clients all over the country. They'd decided together, early in their marriage, not to have kids. Neither ever regretted it. Instead of diapers and sleepless nights, they had spontaneous trips to Cabo San Lucas, weekend getaways to hill country wineries, and the freedom to invest in hobbies and friendships. Patrick Donovan was an integral part of that life. More than a friend, Patrick was like a brother to Ryan. They met at the University of Texas, two confused freshmen lost in the massive campus who ended up sharing a tiny apartment for all 4 years of college. When Ryan proposed to Heather, there was no question about who would be best man. Patrick was there, in a rented tuxedo, giving a heartfelt speech that made half the guests cry and the other half laugh. In the 9 years that followed, their friendship only deepened. Patrick, a talented landscape architect who'd been divorced for 3 years, came over to the Castellanos' house at least once a week. Sunday barbecues, poker nights with other friends, basketball games at the nearby park. Heather always said Patrick was the brother she never had. The house they lived in, a modern 2-story in the Zilker neighborhood, was Ryan's pride. The spacious backyard was perfect for the regular barbecues they hosted. The open kitchen, with its marble island, was where Heather liked to work while hopping on video calls. The master bedroom upstairs had large windows overlooking an oak grove, offering privacy and a calm view. Thursday started like any other day. Ryan woke at 6, made coffee while Heather still slept, and left for work at 7:15. The distributor was going through a major system migration, and Ryan had spent the past few weeks coordinating the transition with the IT team. But at 10 a.m., the CTO sent an email to everyone: the migration was delayed by 48 hours due to a last-minute technical issue. All meetings were cancelled. Ryan looked at his computer screen, then at the pile of papers on his desk. There was no point staying there. He sent a quick message to his supervisor saying he'd work remotely from home for the rest of the day, and left the office at 2 p.m. Traffic was light at that hour. Ryan drove through Austin's tree-lined streets listening to a podcast about American history. He got home at 2:30, parked in the driveway, and immediately noticed Patrick's silver Jeep Wrangler in the garage. Strange. Patrick had mentioned during the basketball game last Saturday that he'd be overseeing a big project in San Antonio all week, something about a commercial complex with vertical gardens on 3 buildings. Ryan turned off the engine and sat for a moment, watching the Jeep. Maybe Patrick had come back early. Maybe something had gone wrong with the project. Or maybe he'd just stopped by to grab something he'd forgotten on his last visit. He walked in through the front door, which was unlocked. The house was quiet, but not completely. There were muffled sounds coming from upstairs, laughter. Ryan stopped in the entryway, his work bag still slung over his shoulder. His first thought was innocent: maybe Heather was on a video call and Patrick had gone upstairs to use the bathroom. But there was something about the quality of those laughs, a familiarity, that made something tighten in his chest. He walked up the stairs slowly, each step creaking under his weight. The sounds grew clearer. It wasn't just laughter anymore. There were murmurs, whispers, the kind of sounds Ryan knew well because he and Heather had made them. But it wasn't his voice answering hers. The master bedroom door was slightly ajar. Ryan didn't plan what he'd do next. He just pushed the door open, and the world he knew collapsed. Heather was in their bed, the same gray comforter they'd picked out together at Pottery Barn 3 months ago. Patrick was beside her. Both froze when they saw Ryan standing in the doorway. For a moment that felt like forever, neither moved. Ryan could see, with painful clarity, every detail of what was right in front of him. Patrick's clothes tossed on the chair Ryan used to read in before bed. Heather's phone on the nightstand. The windows open, letting in the warm September breeze and the distant sound of children playing in a nearby yard. Heather was the first to move, yanking the sheet up to cover herself. Her mouth opened and closed, but no sound came out. Patrick sat on the edge of the bed, reaching for his clothes with mechanical movements, his face as pale as paper. Ryan's voice, when it finally came, was calm. Too calm. He surprised himself. "San Antonio, Patrick?" Ryan asked, leaning against the doorframe. "How's the project in San Antonio?" Patrick didn't answer. He was pulling on his pants with trembling hands, avoiding looking directly at Ryan. "Ryan, I can explain," Heather started, her voice high and desperate. "This isn't what you think. We just..." "Just what?" Ryan interrupted, and now there was a sharp edge to his voice. "Just decided to meet here, in my house? Just figured I'd be at the office all day? Just forgot I live here?" Heather began to cry. Big tears rolling down a face Ryan had kissed 1,000 times. Tears that, Ryan realized with cruel clarity, meant nothing to him in that moment. "It was a mistake," she sobbed. "Ryan, please, it was just a mistake. It doesn't mean anything." "A mistake," Ryan repeated, tasting the word on his tongue. "You stumbled and fell into bed with my best friend? That's how mistakes work now." Patrick finally spoke, still unable to meet Ryan's eyes. "Man, I'm so sorry. I know this is unforgivable. I know," his voice cracked. "How long?" Ryan asked, the question slipping out before he even realized he wanted to know. "How long has this been going on?" Silence. Heather looked at Patrick, who finally lifted his eyes to meet Ryan's. There were tears running down Patrick's face too, and something in his expression, a mix of shame and desperation, made Ryan understand the answer would be worse than he imagined. "Almost 2 years," Patrick whispered. 2 years. It wasn't a one-night mistake. It wasn't a moment of weakness. It was 2 years of lies, 2 years of systematic betrayal, 2 years of Ryan being played for a fool. "When did it start?" Ryan asked, his voice now a dangerous whisper. Heather buried her face in her hands. Patrick closed his eyes, took a deep breath, and answered. "It started at your birthday party. The surprise Heather organized. It's been 22 months. Ryan remembered that night. His 37th birthday. He'd come home thinking it would just be a quiet dinner, but found the house full of friends, decorations, a table piled with food. He remembered raising a toast, thanking everyone for being there, especially Heather for putting it all together and Patrick for being the brother he never had. And that same night, or soon after, all of it had been a lie. "Get out," Ryan said, his voice low but firm. "Both of you. Get out of my house right now." "Ryan, we can talk about this," Heather begged, getting out of bed wrapped in the sheet. "Please, give me a chance to explain. There's context, there are reasons." "Reasons?" Ryan laughed, a harsh, humorless sound. "What reasons justify 2 years of lies? What context makes it okay for you to sleep with my best friend in my own home?" "I was confused," Heather said quickly. "We were in a rut, and I felt lost, and Patrick was going through his divorce, and we talked a lot, and one thing led to another." "One thing led to another for 2 years?" Ryan shook his head. "You two, out. Now. Patrick, you have 5 minutes to grab your stuff and never set foot here again. Heather, get dressed and go anywhere but near me." Patrick finished dressing in silence, picked up his Jeep keys, and walked toward the door. When he passed Ryan, he stopped, opening his mouth as if to say something, but Ryan turned away. Patrick hurried down the stairs, and moments later Ryan heard the front door close and the Jeep's engine start. Heather had dressed quickly. "Ryan, please. We can go to couples therapy. We can fix this. I love you. Ryan looked at her, really looked at her as if seeing her for the first time. If that's love, Ryan said calmly, then I don't want to know what hate is. Get out, Heather. She grabbed her bag and phone, moving slowly. At the bedroom door, she turned one last time. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Ryan didn't answer. He just stood there, listening to her footsteps going down the stairs, the door opening and closing, her car starting and pulling away. When the silence returned, Ryan sat on the edge of the bed. He looked around the room, seeing now the signs he should have noticed. How Heather always insisted on changing the sheets on Thursdays. How she got irritated when he came home earlier than expected. He picked up his phone and opened the banking app. Heather and he had a joint account for household expenses. Ryan had never paid much attention to her transactions. But now, scrolling through the statements from the past few months, he saw a pattern. Hotels. Always hotels in Austin, half-day bookings, always on Thursdays. The Driscoll, the Fairmont, the Hotel St. Cecilia. Beautiful, expensive places. Fancy restaurants. A jewelry store where she'd spent $400 on something Ryan had never seen her wear. He scrolled back further. 6 months. A year. 18 months. 2 years. When he reached the total, his hand shook. $18,000. She'd spent $18,000 of their joint account funding an affair. Ryan went downstairs to the office. Her laptop was on the desk. He opened it and waited for it to boot up. No password. We're married, she always said. We don't have secrets from each other. The irony was bitter now. He opened her email app. Her inbox was full of work messages, newsletters, spam. Ryan saw a folder labeled P. Just the letter. He clicked. Hundreds of messages. Ryan started reading, his breathing growing heavier with every line. Explicit messages, photos, detailed plans. He read about times Patrick came over while Ryan was at work. Read Heather describing how exciting it was to do it in the bed she shared with her husband. Read Patrick saying he felt powerful knowing Ryan had no idea. One message in particular made Ryan stop. It was from 8 months ago, during a weekend when Ryan had traveled to a conference in Dallas. Heather had written to Patrick, he gave a speech yesterday about loyalty and friendship. About how true friends are chosen family. I almost laughed. If he knew you were in our bed 3 hours before he called to say goodnight. Ryan closed the laptop. He needed air. He left the house and started walking through the neighborhood. It was mid-afternoon on a Thursday, and life went on normally for everyone except Ryan. He walked for an hour before returning. When he came back in, he picked up his phone and called the only divorce lawyer he knew, a college friend named Marcus Chen who specialized in family law. Marcus, I need a divorce lawyer. Can I hire you? There was a pause. Sure. When do you want to meet? Tomorrow morning. As early as possible. 8 a.m. at my office. Heather called 7 times that night. Ryan didn't answer any. She sent messages, long, pleading messages full of apologies and excuses. Ryan read them all, but didn't reply. Patrick also tried calling, 3 times, before giving up and sending one text, I'm sorry, brother. I messed everything up. Ryan blocked Patrick's number. As for Heather, he sent one short message, my lawyer will contact you. Don't come back without telling me first. The meeting with Marcus was straightforward. Ryan presented the evidence, bank statements, printed emails, a chronological summary of everything he'd discovered. Marcus listened in silence, taking notes. Texas is a community property state, Marcus explained. In a no-fault divorce, assets are split 50-50. But with proven infidelity, especially involving significant misuse of marital funds to support the affair, we can argue for a disproportionate division. How long will this take? With evidence this clear? If she doesn't contest it, we can have everything wrapped up in 60 days. If she fights, it could take 6 months or more. Make it as fast as possible, Ryan said. And Marcus? I want every penny she spent on those hotels returned. Marcus nodded. I'll do my best. The weeks that followed were a blur. Ryan moved temporarily into a furnished apartment, refusing to sleep another night in that house. Heather kept trying to reach him. Ryan kept all communication through lawyers. The news spread fast through his social circle. Mutual friends started taking sides. Most sided with Ryan. Sarah and Dan, a couple from their poker group, called to say Patrick was no longer welcome at game nights. Jake, another close friend, said he'd suspected something months ago when he'd seen Patrick and Heather laughing together in a way that felt too intimate, but had convinced himself he was being paranoid. Patrick tried to defend himself in a WhatsApp group they shared, sending a long message about being ashamed and seeking therapy. Jake removed him immediately. You betrayed our brother, Jake wrote. No therapy fixes that. Patrick's professional reputation also suffered. Austin is a big city, but the landscape architecture community is small and tightly connected. When Patrick's clients found out through gossip what he'd done, several contracts were cancelled. One client in particular, a businessman named Robert Thornton who'd hired Patrick for a $500,000 project, called personally to say he couldn't work with someone who doesn't respect the sanctity of marriage. Heather faced her own consequences. Her consulting business relied heavily on the network of contacts she and Ryan had built together over the years. Ryan, always discreet, didn't make a point of spreading salacious details. He simply told business partners he and Heather were divorcing. But Austin, like any city, loves gossip. Soon everyone knew why. 3 of her biggest clients terminated contracts. A tech company she'd worked with for 2 years sent a formal email saying they were going in a different direction. The divorce process moved with brutal efficiency. Heather tried to contest the disproportionate division, but the emails spoke for themselves. The judge, a woman in her 50s with a reputation for being fair but firm, had no sympathy. 90 days after Ryan filed the papers, the divorce was final. Ryan kept the house after paying Heather half the equity, minus the $18,000 she owed back. Heather walked away with significantly less than she'd brought in. The months passed. Ryan sold the house, unable to imagine living there again. With the money, he bought a modern loft downtown near the Colorado River. It was smaller, but it was his. Every piece of furniture, every decoration was chosen by him, free of tainted memories. He started going to a new gym. Lost the 15 pounds he'd gained over the years. Let his beard grow. Bought new clothes. He wasn't trying to impress anyone. He was simply rediscovering himself. 15 months after that Thursday afternoon, Ryan was at a cafe near his loft, a place called Flitch Coffee he'd adopted as his unofficial weekend office. He was reviewing proposals for the distributor's expansion when he saw her. Heather walked through the door, looking around as if searching for someone. She looked different. Thinner, but not in a healthy way. Her hair was pulled into a simple ponytail. Deep shadows hung under her eyes. She wore faded jeans and an oversized t-shirt. Her eyes met his. For a moment, Heather froze. Then, slowly, she walked toward his table. "Hi, Ryan," she said, her voice uncertain. "Heather." Ryan closed his laptop but didn't stand up. "You're okay. I mean, you look good." She hesitated. "Can I sit for a minute?" Ryan gestured to the empty chair. Heather sat on the edge, like she was ready to flee at any moment. "How are you?" she asked. "Good. Really good, actually. I saw you sold the house. Sold it. And you're living downtown now? In a loft. Heather nodded, biting her lip. Silence settled between them, heavy and uncomfortable. Ryan waited. Patrick left me, Heather finally said. 6 months ago. He met someone. A younger woman who works at the architecture firm where he got a job. She's 26. Ryan didn't say anything. He just watched Heather, seeing the pain in her eyes. I know I don't have the right to tell you this, she continued, but I wanted you to know I get it now. I understand what I did to you. Patrick left me via text message, Ryan. After everything. Heather, Ryan said calmly, why are you telling me this? She looked at him, tears starting to form. Because I wanted to apologize. For real. Not because I want you back. But because you deserve to hear that I know I ruined everything. That I destroyed something good for something that wasn't worth anything. Ryan nodded slowly. Okay. I accept your apology. And I wanted you to know I'm fighting, she went on. Financially, emotionally. I lost most of my clients. I'm living with a roommate. My parents barely speak to me. And I deserve all of it. Ryan took a sip of his coffee. I'm sorry you're going through hard times, he said, and realized it was true. He didn't take pleasure in her suffering. Just emotional distance. You're not satisfied with this? Heather asked. Aren't you happy to see me like this? Ryan considered the question. No. I'm not happy, but I'm not sad either. You made choices, Heather. Choices that had consequences. I don't take joy in your pain, but I won't pretend it's my responsibility to care. Heather wiped her tears. You became cold. No, Ryan corrected. I became honest. For years, I was married to a lie. Now I live in truth. And the truth is you and Patrick don't belong in my life anymore. Not with anger, not with hatred. Just, not anymore. Heather sat in silence for a long moment. Then she stood. I hope you're happy, Ryan. Truly. You deserve it. Ryan just nodded. Heather turned to leave, then paused. Are you seeing someone? Ryan considered not answering. I'm meeting people. Going out. Living my life. Something in Heather's expression changed. A final understanding. That the man she'd betrayed wasn't waiting for her, wasn't suffering in silence. He'd moved on. Goodbye, Ryan, she whispered. Goodbye, Heather. He watched her leave the cafe and disappear around the corner. Then Ryan opened his laptop again and went back to the proposals. There was an important meeting on Monday. Outside, Austin carried on with its normal day. Cars passed. People laughed. The sun shone bright. And Ryan Castellano, for the first time in a long time, felt completely present in his own life. Not anchored in the past, not worried about what might have been. Just there, living, breathing, moving forward. The betrayal had broken something in him, but it hadn't destroyed him. Heather and Patrick had taken from him the innocence of blind trust, but in return he'd gained something more valuable, the understanding that he didn't need anyone else's validation to know his own worth. He finished his coffee, grabbed his things, and walked out. There was a life waiting for him out there, a life he was building choice by choice. And for the first time since that devastating Thursday afternoon, Ryan was eager to see where this new road would take him. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and turn on notifications so you won't miss any updates. See you next time.